Hello friends, in this video I want to talk to you about the structure and function of the muscle in a male called bulbospongiosus, and on that basis of structure and function I want to build upon a case that this muscle must be preserved as far as possible during the operation of urethroplasty. So why this muscle should be conserved during urethroplasty? I'll first tell you about some structural aspects of this muscle, and I'll touch upon anatomical facts regarding its place in the perineum, the origin of this muscle, the insertion of this muscle, the actual composition and architecture of this muscle, and also its innervation and the vascular supply. This is how the undersurface of erect penis looks like, and you will see here in blue the corpus cavernosum, and in orange the corpus spongiosum as well as the glans penis. The corpus cavernosum at the level of its roots is covered by a paired muscle called ischiocavernosus, and the bulb is covered by a muscle called bulbospongiosus. And that's how it is arranged on the underside of the bulbous urethra. Its nerve supply comes from terminal branches of perineal nerves, and these nerves enter the bulbospongiosus muscle from the posterior most aspect, and the nerve fibers traverse in the muscle anteriorly as far as it can go. And not only this, these nerve fibers cross over to the other side. Now, this part of neuroanatomy has been described by Dr. Barbagli, that the nerves of one side go to the muscle of the other side. The blood vessels, the arterial supply as well as the venous drainage, both accompany these nerve fibers, and they also enter from the posterior aspect. If you see this in the lateral profile, this is here is the bulb, and then the prostatic urethra. This is how the bulbous urethra looks in lateral profile. And if you see the architecture and the composition of bulbospongiosus muscle, it comprises of three distinct parts of the muscle bundles. The anterior muscle bundle, also called as anterior group of muscle fibers, this is almost an independent muscle which is known by the name of compressor radicis penis. This muscle starts from the central tendon, traverses on the undersurface of bulb of urethra, and goes over to the corpus cavernosum. The posterior most group of muscle fibers are known as compressor nudi urethrae. In old literature, this was also called as musculus compressor hemispherei bulbi. As the name implies, this part of the muscle bundle is supposed to compress the posterior most part of the bulb. So you have, friends, anterior group of fibers, you have the posterior group of fibers, and then over these two you have a wrapping thick muscle belly which is called middle group of fibers, and it is known as musculus compressor bulbi proprii. So it is the major muscle bulk is in the middle group. So this understanding is vital to know that this muscle comprises of three group of fibers. The anterior group of fibers, as I was talking to you, in some patients it gets inserted on the lateral aspect of corpus cavernosum, but in some patients it goes over the corpus cavernosum, and not only that, it goes over the dorsal vein of penis, and fiber of one side meet the fiber of other side, so it becomes like a sling over the dorsal vein of the penis, and these fibers can then compress this dorsal vein of penis and thus help in penile turgidity. This muscle fiber, as I said, is known as Houston loop. I told you that nerve fibers enter the muscle from the posterior aspect, and then once they enter the muscle, they traverse within the muscle, and then they can traverse as far as the anterior group of fibers. If you see the sectional anatomy, the sagittal section at this level, you will see that this is the urethra and the spongiosum here, and then this muscle bundle shown in yellow is the compressor bulbi muscle, and these are the anterior fiber of compressor bulbi muscle. And then in the brown that you see is a thick layer muscle. This is a middle group of muscle fibers of bulbospongiosus, and you will appreciate here that you have an independent nerve going to the compressor bulbi and another independent nerve going to the middle group fibers of the bulbospongiosus. These nerve fibers, having supplied the bulbospongiosus muscle, they penetrate the spongiosum and they innervate the spongiosum also. And not only that, some fibers ascend up to go as high as the external sphincter. So that is the anatomy of this muscle. Let us see what is the functional role of this muscle, and let us see why the nature has made this muscle into three parts, why the nature has given this muscle such intricate, independent nerve supply and also the vascular supply. In functional aspects, it has some role to play in erection, it has some role to play in ejaculation, and it has some role to play in the micturition. We will see them each one by one. In the erectile function, I told you that the anterior group of fibers, they sling over the dorsal vein of penis and can compress it. So that's one way this muscle can aid into the erection of penis. And second way is that when this muscle, the posterior most fiber of this muscle contract, they compress the bulb like that. Okay, so you will see this is a relaxed bulb, and this is when the muscle contracts over the bulb. The moment the muscle contracts over the bulb, the blood which is contained in the bulb of urethra is shifted forwards anteriorly into the glans penis, and this results into increased turgidity of the glans penis. So this is because of the shift of blood from posterior part of spongiosum, which is the bulb, to the anterior part, which is the glans penis. In reference to its role in ejaculation, as the semen comes in the urethral lumen, you will see here it has a grey fluid filling the urethral lumen. Firstly, the posterior most fibers of bulbospongiosus contracts like this. So the posterior part of bulb is compressed and semen is propelled forward. Once that happens, the middle fibers contract like this, and then this generates a rhythmic peristaltic movement in the urethral lumen, and that's how the semen is propelled out in jerks in some patients. So the muscle relaxes and it contracts, it relaxes and contracts. So as it does this way, a propulsive force is created in the expression of semen from the external uterine meatus. And you can also appreciate why the nature has made the two dominant groups of the muscle, the posterior part and the middle part, and why nature has given an independent innervation to these fibers. What is the role in micturition? Now, to explain to you its role in micturition, I want to show you small little video of real life, and that is when you wash your hands under a tap, look at the way the water is flowing. In this video, the water flew in a very small jet. It came on your hands. In another video, see that the speed of water flow has changed. Now, when the speed of water flow changes, you will notice increased pressure on your palms, and you also feel increased turbulence of water within your palm. So two things happen: more turbulence and more pressure in your hands. When the water comes with more force, you have more turbulence and you have more pressure on your hands, and also you have some degree of noise. Now friends, similar thing happens when the urine enters this bulbar urethra from the bladder. When bladder contracts with force, the urine traverses from prostatic urethra, it enters the bulbous urethra, and as it enters the bulbous urethra, it changes its direction by 90 degrees. So imagine the fluid, the urine coming with force, and then it has to change its direction. Now when it comes with force, it sets in a similar phenomena as I showed you in a video a little while ago. And because of that phenomena, because of that turbulence, the bulb tends to dilate. That's probably why the bulbar urethra is dilated in all males. Every time the bladder empties into bulbous urethra with force, the distension effect leads to bulbar dilatation. And as the bulb dilates, for urine to get a direction towards the external urinary meatus, this bulbospongious muscle contracts. Now this bulbospongious muscle, therefore, both fibers act as, a buttress, a kind of scaffold, and has a buttressing effect so that urine flows in right direction and goes out from the urinary meatus. Let me try and explain you with the help of these radiographic pictures. Now this is a normal voiding cystourethrogram of a male child, and you will appreciate that bladder neck is open and external sphincter is open and bulbous urethra is distended. At the time of voiding, if penis is bent ventrally, such as seen here, then bulbar urethra may get dilated a little more. But then you notice in some patients like here, you appreciate that the urine coming from prostatic urethra, but the posterior part of bulb is not dilated. It's only the distal half of the bulb that is dilated. This kind of picture is normal in some children, and this is because of the compression effect of the bulbospongious muscle, the posterior fibers, and also some degree of middle fibers which compress. Here in this patient, the bulbous spongiosum has contracted little more than the required. So the bulb is kind of occluded. It is not obstructed, but intraluminal space has become lesser. But the same thing is not there, the distal bulb. So distal bulb is visible to you as normal. Here is another patient who was having total paraplegia for more than 15 years. And his micturating cystourethrogram showed this kind of picture. Now here you see a ventral diverticulum from the bulb. Now whether this diverticulum resulted from a catheter trauma, the paralytic bulbospongious muscle is also contributing in its genesis. And when this patient had a retrograde urethrogram, this showed a narrowing here. And you can have a relook on the MCU. In this film, VCUG film, you do not notice any narrowing here at the pinobulbar junction. But in retrograde urethrogram, you notice a narrowing at pinobulbar junction. This narrowing is due to contraction of the anterior groove fibers of bulbospongiosum. So, friends, I explained to you some structural intricacies of the bulbospongiosum, and I've also explained to you why nature has given the intricacies in the structure and what is the functional value of this muscle in erection, ejaculation, and also in maturation. And if a male patient is sexually active, we must make all efforts to conserve this muscle during the operation of urethroplasty. So thank you very much for your patient listening.